Welcome to part 2 of this Petals Club subscription box. This time I'm just going to show you how I cut down fine china plates to use in mosaic. So first of all, I take my plate and I put it inside a plastic bag, and that helps catch all the little bits and stops things from flying all over the place. But I still do recommend that you wear eye protection. So using wheeled nippers, what I'm doing is I'm putting the nippers on the edge of the plate, but not over the side, if you know what I mean. So it's got to be, I put it on the edge like that, see. And then place it inside the plastic bag and just squeeze, and then the plate will break. Because we're using recycled materials, you can't guarantee where the break will happen, where it will snap to. Because you don't know whether there's some hairline cracks inside the china or not. And this plate here that I've got, it's got some lovely flowers on the border. So what I'm doing is I'm just nipping it down to protect that little flower, which I'll use in my mosaic. Because I'm cutting the little rose, and I want to protect that little rose, I'm nipping, but with very small little cuts. So I'm just doing a bit, turning it, nipping a little bit, turning it. And that way you've got more control over what you're nipping away. And you can see why I cut inside a plastic bag, because all those little bits are flying all over the place. So it's a really good idea to capture that in the bag. And there we are, one little tiny rose. So that's quite nice. And you can use that in your designs. And this little edge piece I'm just going to cut diagonally, so I've got a nice little point, and it's a different shape to use in my mosaic. I don't know whether you saw that, but there's the foot of the plate, which we're not going to be using in this project. It's because it's on a wobble, shall I say, when you cut it, so it doesn't sit nice and flat. So it's not going to be used in this project. And yeah, so this piece, this little purple flower, I'm just cutting it in a square. So it's just practicing really and deciding what shapes you want. Do you want to keep any of the pattern that's on the edge of your plate, or are you just happy to cut the edge in a random way, you know, triangles and squares and I don't know, oblongs, rectangles, and then you can use those like the cut pieces that I already sent you. So all I'm doing is working my way around the plate, because these pieces that I'm cutting, these aren't necessarily the finished size. I can always nip and shape it when I need to. Here we are, yeah, just cutting it down. You can see from this plate that I'm getting quite a few tiles out of that little rim. So yeah, it's quite nice to recycle things. And once you've finished all your cutting and your nipping, just well, wrap up all the broken china that you're not going to use into your plastic bag, and then it can go into the household waste. Now I'm just trying to show you the back stamp here on the back of the plate. Most fine china has a back stamp, and sometimes they can be quite pretty, and I like to include it in some of my mosaics, because it shows the history of the piece. It shows you that you know, the tiles that you're using have had a former life. It came from somewhere else. So again, what I'm doing is I'm cutting off the big excess bits of plate and taking them out of the plastic bag for safety, because they're sharp, you don't want to cut yourself. And then I'm just going to work myself around like I did before with the rose, and just taking little nips and try and make some sort of circle, although this back stamp isn't actually a proper circle. But yeah, you can see I'm just doing little nips, and getting closer and closer, because it's easier to do little nips, a bit like adding the water. It's easy to do it in little stages, then try and cut off a load at once, and you've got a little bit more control. I'm getting closer and closer to the back stamp edge, and as you can see, it's becoming rounder and rounder, because I'm just doing little nips and just nipping off those little points, and there we are. so that could be used then inside your mosaic. Freshly cut china can be quite sharp, so I'm just going to show you a little trick of how to knock off the edges of the fine china that you've just cut. So you would have had a little tub with your pre-cut pieces that I sent you. If you empty that tub out and put in your freshly cut pieces, then just give it a shake. Just shake it vigorously for a minute or so, and that's enough to knock the edges, so it's not as sharp. I mean, it still is, you know, I would be careful, but it's not as sharp as it was when you first cut it. So that's a neat little trick there. So I've tipped the pieces out onto my tray, and you can see the dust that's knocked off those little edges. And now I'm just going to use some of those pieces that I've cut in my larger heart, and I've added it into the pre-cut pieces so they're all mixed up. But there we are, I'm using the back stamp as my centerpiece. So I'm just going to go around, you know, using my pre-cut pieces, and I've sped this up because you've seen all this in part one. But take your time, it's fun, it's relaxing, it's like doing a jigsaw, but you've made the pieces, and you know, don't forget you can nibble off corners here, there and everywhere if you need to get a piece to fit. And near the end here, I've just got one more piece to find. Just make sure that all your pieces are well adhered to the backing. Make sure they're all pressed down. As you can see, it's the last piece. It's always the most difficult to find, but yes, I've got that little yellow one in there. Wonderful. So what I'll do now is leave that to dry overnight for 24 hours, and then I'll grout. Thank you for watching, and enjoy making your fine china mosaic hearts.